And there we are. It's Monday night. We're a little late tonight, 8:30, Dialogue with Dozie. We're coming right at you. Tonight, we kick off our African-American history. That's why we're celebrating African-American history. Listen, some guests are going to join us a little bit later because of our late start, but that's all right. This will be going on. This will be here for a minute, like infinity, more or less. Okay, tonight, as we said on last week, we will be celebrating every aspect of our history. We're looking at entrepreneurism. We're looking at education. We're looking at Blacks in the criminal justice system. We're going to be looking at advocacy, reparations, the call for reparations, and all of these things. Tonight, we're celebrating the spirit of entrepreneurism. I guess I said that right. Black entrepreneurism. And I know it's sounding funny. We have two very inspirational people that I've learned since relocating to South Florida to really look up to. They have been inspirations in this area, and there's nothing better than to get local people. Both of them have been on before. Bill McCormick was with us recently talking about HBCUs, and Coretta Smith-Morgan was on with us not too long after we started Dialogue with Dozie, and she's on with us tonight, and we'll be on in just a second. So without any further ado, KV is he's on assignment tonight. He'll be watching the broadcast at some point. Kicking in, let's just bring our guests on right now. Bill McCormick, Mr. William McCormick, he's a trustee at Florida Memorial University, and Miss Coretta Scott Morgan. She is the entrepreneur along with her husband, Bernard. They are the entrepreneurs at Star Island. I don't want to mess up the other part. I'm going to let you say it, Retta. Bill, Retta, how are you all doing tonight?
I'm fine. And nice to see you again. And hello, Miss Coretta.
Retta, how you doing tonight? Okay, we're not able to hear Coretta. Okay. Miss Retta, how you doing? Okay. Bill, we'll work with you until we can bring her in. Bill, we talked to you last time from your trustee position. Would you kind of talk to us tonight from your position as an entrepreneur? And we're going to ask you some specific questions. Would you just give us an intro as to some of the things you've dabbled into, and then we're going to ask you some questions shortly.
Sure. Well, good evening to all the listeners. This is Bill McCormick, President and CEO of AmeriClaims Billing. Actually, tonight, February 7th, 1990, is when I started my entrepreneurial pathway. And so now this service, 32 years as an entrepreneur in South Florida. I started out in the medical supply business, and I built the business, sold it, started a medical home infusion pharmacy business that I also built and sold to a division of Eckert, which is now CVS, and now do medical claim processing for hospitals, laboratories, and healthcare providers across the country. I employ 24 full-time medical bill coders and collectors, and we serve clients in about 31 states. So we're excited to be in the health service industry at this time.
Okay. All right. Ms. Retta, can you hear us? Retta, can you hear us?
She may have some technical difficulties, Brother.
Yeah, I don't think she can hear us. Retta, if you can hear us, let us know. Okay. So, Bill, we'll stay with you until we can. Get her back on and work out those difficulties to do so. We'll talk to her. Bill, tell us how long ago did you say you started your business? And
yeah, my first 32 years ago today.
Do you mind sharing what got you started?
Well, initially, when I was released from pro baseball, I came to South Florida and I was going out for interviews, and everyone was telling me I was overqualified for a job that had never worked. So I decided I would launch my own business. It was always my passion to be my own entrepreneur. I started sooner than, at least I thought I was, started sooner than I wanted to, but it was the right time. And here, 32 years later, I'm happy to say through a lot of long nights, a lot of nights crying, a lot of morning praying, a lot of customers saying no. But at the end of the day, I have a successful track record in the line of business. And I've learned so much behind the people that I employ, behind the customers that I've served, and the services that I've learned, because I never had an idea that it was going to be in healthcare, but I'm thankful for that, for the opportunity to be in a space that has always been growing. There's never been a recession in healthcare. So I kind of stayed in the healthcare pharmaceutical realm, and it's been very fruitful.
So Bill, other than almost like by necessity, what were other modes of inspiration that push you to your own business, other than you just like?
Well, I started working when I was 11 years old when my dad died in South Georgia. So I've always been working, and I worked for one of the richest men in South Georgia, and I learned a lot of his business acumen just by the way he was dealing with retailers and distributors who he had a male haberdashery store that I was the lead salesperson and the stock person and the cleanup person. I did everything. But I learned a lot from him, and I saw what it gave him. It was it put him on a pedestal of empowerment, and I always kept that in the back of my mind, that this guy controlled his own destiny. He would walk in a place and people respected him because they knew he had money, and he controlled how much money he had. So I kind of grew up in that environment, watching this gentleman, Mr. Max Frosty was his name, watching him build his male haberdashery and his second business where he did farmers markets, where he had vegetables and fruit that he sold throughout Georgia. So it was a great foundation for learning to see it in firsthand. But when I went to college, I majored in business, and I always wanted to be business. I sold fruits and mangoes and oranges and tangerines during college to survive, to get my clothes washed and have spending money. So I've always been a salesperson, and I've always liked people. So I just put the two together and figured, you know what, I'm going to take the best shot at it, and I'm thankful that I did.
Bill, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. I'm going to ask you to transport yourself back to from that humble beginning to your first filing, your first plan, doing a mental business plan. I want you to take like 5 minutes and tell the audience your feelings, your fears, your feelings, all of that stuff. And we're going to get into some of the...
Yeah, and I go back, I can actually, in retrospect, look and say, wow, first of all, the people that I thought was going to help me did not. It was very disappointing. There were friends and colleagues that I called and told them I had this bad vision and I had an opportunity we could make some money. And when I presented the idea, they kind of shut it down. It's like every turn I made, it was not supportive. So it kept. That's where the long nights and the teary eyes would. You thought something was wrong with you. At least I did. I thought, well, why they don't trust me? I'm a good guy. I'm gonna work hard, and I know this vision is bold, is prosperous. It has success written all over it. But why am I the only person seemingly to see it? So the beginning of it, I learned a lot about being told no. I learned a lot about the people who I thought would be supportive. They just didn't see what I saw. And then I remember something my grandmother told me, my great grandmother told me, if I ever accomplished my dream by myself, then it wasn't big enough. So I started thinking of bigger dreams so I can find more people to see what I saw and they would invest in, if it anything, give me words of encouragement. And I learned a lot. I had employees who, before I got real astute in the business acumen, they stole from me. I had creditors calling because you couldn't pay for your invoices. There was a lot of trial and heartaches, pain growing up to learning what makes the business run. I had it backwards. I prepared a business plan. I prepared a marketing plan. I did all of that. But the most important thing I forgot was the three C's. You got to have cash, you got to have character, and you got to have clients. If you perfect the three C's, the cash, that's the money to make the business work. Um, the character, that's you saying and doing what you promote. If you say you're the best and you're going to deliver it, you have to deliver it. And then more importantly, if you have no clients, you have no business. So you got to satisfy them and you got to find them all the time. And so when I learned that, I was very, very, happy to see the different doors opening because I didn't have to prove anything at that point. I had manifested the spirit of take care of the three C's and everything else will come with you. And that's what I've been doing for the last 32 years. There's been great results because of it.
So what would be your advice for someone who does not have the cash right off the bat? They got the character, they got the other C, they got the passion, they got the heart, they just don't have the money, and they've never been fortunate to be in a position um, to amass the cash. What would you suggest in today's business world? What's out there to help them amass that?
Well, there's a couple of things prior to them seeking help, and let me explain. I started with $512 on February 7th, 1990, and I turned that $512 into two enterprises being sold to national companies. But what I had that gave me the leverage is that I didn't have personal debt and I did not have big operating monthly expenses. I lived on a very, very personal type budget. Other than rent, utilities, there were very many nights of no social activity. So, but what I did is I was able to have a few months of saved monies to cover my means, my things that was necessary. I didn't buy anything that I didn't need. I didn't go places I didn't have to go because my vision was I needed to keep the business going and I couldn't spend the money that I had to live on a business that was not proven yet. So the first thing I advise the person, if you're going to go into business, make sure you have at least your bare necessities covered for at least 5 to 7 months. If you don't have that, then you're going to run into what we call a timeline, cash timeline, not cash flow timeline. You got to balance the money with the time to get things working because I can tell you in business, nothing works in sequential order. Nothing's going to work on the time frame that you lay out. It just doesn't happen. There's too many variables. But when you have your cash timeline, understanding how much money you have for whatever period of time, you will be able to get where you're going. And that way you don't have to be, as the old saying, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, because somebody's not going to get paid, and that's going to create the rumble. And if you have rumble, you're going to have crumble. So I advise people don't do that. What I do advise is that lay out your business plan in your head first, and then write down where you want to take it, and then figure out how do you get there. Now, if you don't have traditional cash, meaning your own money or money from friends and family, I mean, you can go to the SBA, you can go to the banks, but I can tell you, I had a bad experience. My first attempts to get business loan, and I share the story often with young people. In 1990, Lexus had brought out the first LS400 model, or soon thereafter, and I went to the bank, Barnett Bank at the time, to apply for a $50,000 business loan with immaculate credit. And I was declined because they say I did not have direct industry experience. That was the reason of my application being denied. That next weekend, I got approved for a $62,000 vehicle, which I, of course, declined. But they was willing to give me a loan for a vehicle, but not a loan for my business. So that made me work harder and extra hard. I mean, I went beyond the scope of night to make sure I was going to prove them that they were wrong, that I had no direct industry experience. And I was later awarded, I applied, and I was awarded through Citibank. And I always share their names, Mary Ann Bacon and Laura Ferguson. They were the two top Black female senior bank representatives for Citibank. They gave me the largest line of credit in the Florida history. And they will tell you, not only did I acquire the largest line of credit, I paid it off in 34 days. And I was on my way from that point. I just needed to be able to satisfy a contract that I had was awarded, and I needed to be able to buy my inventory to support that. And that one line of credit through Citibank, through those two young ladies who were adamant about African American getting funded, who were solid business, and they would tell you they went through my business worse than the IRS for a few $100,000s, but it turned out to be the best for them and the best for me. So I'm always grateful, and I'll always remember them. I'll always give them kudos, because they didn't look at my color. They look at what I was building. They saw my vision. They felt my passion. They saw the infrastructure I had put in place, and I had a real machine going on at the time, and they got to see it in action. And they went back and they advocated, and I was approved for the largest line of credit they ever given to a minority in the state of Florida.
Okay, Bill, I'm liking what you bringing this the minority aspect, and we got Retta back on. We're going to bring her on in just a second, thankfully. But I want to ask you this real quick. I have a question from the producer, but I want to get Retta in. But before I bring her in, I want to ask you one question. How do you intermingle business sense and raw emotion? You were turned down, you were rejected when you should have been. You're given one, you approved for one loan, and you want it for this. How do you manage the emotional aspect when there's a business decision to be made? I think that's good for all of our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to believe in what you're offering, and you got to know without a shadow of a doubt that what you're offering is going to serve the need to the clients that you want to be your customers. I was adamant. I knew at the time medical supplies and medical equipment was needed. People needed wheelchairs. My people in my community needed wheelchairs. They needed walkers and canes and hospital beds. And then when the AIDS epidemic came out and hit South Florida like a tidal wave, I was the only provider, white or black or any other color, that delivered medical supplies and pharmaceuticals inside of a patient who was diagnosed with AIDS. And I did it for three counties, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, where I was making 4,000 deliveries a month. I believed in it. And so by them telling me no, I knew I was serving a need. And you have to have a need to be fulfilled in order to get clients on a regular basis. And we were adamant that we were going to hang tough in there once I built my team around me. And then, I mean, I started out, I was a one-man show until I could build up enough revenue to hire somebody to be an extra driver. And then we went from there to, we ended up with 21 people working. But it was, you feel it in your gut that you know what you're doing, you believe in it, you stand by it, and you advocate for it. And but you also got to know the system. The system traditionally is not designed to give you an opportunity to grow as an entrepreneur. You have to fight through the weeds. Well, I've been a fighter all my life, so it wasn't anything new to me. I just had to stay committed, and I had to be faithful to what I was, offering to the public, and stand by my product. And that's what I have tried to do for the last 32 years.
Bill, my brother was here right now. He said, "Good stuff, good stuff." I want to bring Retta in. Retta, can you hear us? Are you able? Maybe she needs to unmute.
Yes, I can hear you now. I couldn't
Fantastic. Retta, you've spoken before. I mean, I'm inspired every time I talk to you guys about this, and I'm a budding entrepreneur myself at age 99 and a half. Retta, what I want to ask you is, tell us the we would call it unusual circumstance, but yesterday I heard this preacher named Varner preach a sermon about the providence of God. Tell us how Star Island got its genesis.
How I got it started?
Yes.
Well, after being kicked out of two salons, I just knew it was time for me to branch out on my own. Well, forced out, not kicked out by the owners that I was working with. So that's what pushed it. And we went and visit this resort in Orlando called Star Island. That's where we came up with the name from, me and my husband.
So it started out with you and a few stylists and your husband. Tell
Huh?
the audience about that.
About because he was in the military. He was a barber in the military. So when I opened the salon, I told him after I was being rejected by so many people, I said, "Baby, it's time for me to branch out on my own." Because basically it was their salon, but I was. It was like it was mine because I was the salon while I was there in both of them. So after the second time, I just said, okay, it's time for me to start my own. So my husband had went to barber school, got his license, so he went and started working at a barber shop. So I told him, I said, well, since you paying rent over there, you can come over here and help over here and have your own little man cave barber shop. And that's how we got started, and that's what we did. So, but yeah,
Bill Redder, for both of you all, I'm hearing, and as often is the case, we get theological with these conversations. Bill, you spoken in terms of it being a gut feeling, and your gut is what pushed you and fueled your fire. Greta, you said it was rejection. Hey, there's some grandchildren around you all. If you live long enough, you'll have some too. So we'll live with that. Um,
yeah.
you, it was circumstances that push you to ultimately make the decision to do what you did. What advice do you all have for people who are hesitant to step out with their gut, or maybe let's just speak spiritual? The Holy Spirit is directing them, and I'm one of them that you'll be talking to on that. I'd like to
Well,
hear
I mean,
both of
I
you
would
all kind of
say
comment on that.
do what Coretta did. She turned those rejections into rejuvenation, and she got with her
Wow.
husband, and you know what? She go to a resort that touched her spirit, and she says, "You know what? We're gonna create our own Star Island salon, spa and salon," and that's what rejections do. I mean, it don't mean no; it just mean not yet. And once you get past the no to the not yet portion, you're understanding that you believe in what you're doing. I mean, she was the top stylist at her place, but the owners were in control. Now she's in control. She dictates everything that goes on. Her husband dictates to help make sure everything goes on. I dictate what goes on in my place. That's what entrepreneurs do. They don't let the rejections take away their rejuvenation. And once you're rejuvenated, it's amazing what people do when they're driven. And we were driven to create what we knew that was already in us.
You want to add to that, Red? I'm glad it's you and not me being asked that. Can you add to that?
Yes, when you believe in yourself, you just go for it.
Yeah.
And when you put God in front of it and He leading you and guiding you in the right direction, who can stop you? You know what I'm saying? It give you that drive.
What is it like, guys, to be able to hire? Uh, Bill, your stories. You came from South Georgia. You just related to us what all of the struggles were like, and we associate certain areas with added struggling because of skin color and other things, socioeconomics and so forth. What is it like to be able to hire African Americans?
That's always been the thrill of for me is to create jobs, and I hire people who look like me, and I teach them about workplace excellence. I teach them about being number one. I teach them about branding that is nothing wrong with being the only black in our space. But
Right.
you know what? Many nights when I go without, they would not go without. I remember those times
Wow.
with employees. I make sure if they was hired, they got paid, and then I still have my first employee. So it's a testament that you can find quality people, but when they don't have what you need, it's okay to train them too. And that's the part I like about what I'm doing now. I get to train them to do it my way. And the Bill McCormick way is failure is not an option. Plain and simple.
Right.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Ready?
Well, with my industry, it's just getting people that's dedicated and believing in themselves and just let them know they can't discourage it. And it's about being patient because to build a clientele, comes with patience. So you can't just, think it's just going to come overnight. You have to get your feet wet and put yourself out there. I gained a lot of my clientele from word of mouth just by my work.
Mhm.
So, my work spoke for me. And they just have to believe in themselves and want to get it, be persistent. And that's it.
I was just going to say, Bill said that the key to it are the three C's, and that sticks with me. Cash, character, we know that's essential in anything we do, and
Right.
clients. How do you, if one was to start a business, and I know it will flow, have a different flow, germane to a particular business, but how do you build up? How do you get some kind of a clientele or potential clientele built up to start off with? How do you do that when you're starting from the ground up?
Well, I mean, each business is very different. I mean, in my space, healthcare, everybody has healthcare. So once you learn how to use the question you got to ask before you start anything is, how do you get paid? Right? Who's going to pay you? In some
Right.
industry, like Coretta, I'm sure she get a lot of cash and a lot of debit card payments. I'm sure she probably not taking checks, but she's going to get a point of sale transaction.
Right.
My transaction, I have to do what they call arrears. I got to provide the work and get paid later. So my referrals or my clients will come from doctors or practitioners who own medical facilities where I got to prove my work. I get paid based on how successful they are. So each area is different. When you're going to have arrears, you're going to have point of sale, like retail stores. They get paid when you walk in and pay. They got their money, right? So everybody's a customer. When you start a business, you got to figure out who's going to be your customer and find out
Right.
where they are and who they are. And then that becomes a strategy in your mind that you implement to say, how do people know who I am? Well, the first customers you get, the first one, you better do a good job. Because if you don't do a good job, the
Wow.
word gonna get out faster when you do a bad job. But when you do a
Right.
good job and the word spread, it's more solid. So people will trust a little bit more. But so you got to work on those things in the initial stages to figure out what service or product you're going to be providing, who are your customers, where are they, and then how do you get to them?
Right.
I'm up against this heartbreak, but when I come back, Bill, I got to ask you a question from Madam Producer, and we'll continue with the dialogue. Listen, y'all want to share this out. This is good information. I'm going to sit back and take notes after this is over. I'm going to sit back and look at it on the TV and take notes as I'm starting my own little thing out as God has inspired me. But He's put these two servants here who pioneered the way and given out good advice. You can't get this at Harvard's MBA school, guys. This is raw from the gut. Share this out. Call somebody. Tell them. Dialogue with those that starting African American History Month by dealing with Black entrepreneurs. Two great ones. Know them for myself. Listen, Dialogue with those is brought to you every Monday night at 8 o'clock. We were a little late tonight, but 8 o'clock, we're brought to you by moregogiggacreations.com. That's moregogiggacreations.com. All of your virtual needs, you just let them handle it. You give them the outline, you tell them what you want, they got your back. They're going to make you look good. I promise you. You can make this face look good. Listen, you're all right. Go moregogiggacreations.com. Every virtual needs, they have a portfolio of clients that they have serviced and have gotten favorable responses back. And like our guest tonight is saying, they're getting second and third calls since this pandemic has started. MoreGoGigaCreations.com. Contact them right now and let them make your business look good. We also like to shout out on Monday nights, showeringlove.org. Sister Jeannie Alba, who was with us a few weeks ago, has buses where showers are installed for South Florida's homeless population. They go into the predominantly homeless areas, and there they not only provide showers and new clothing, but there are an array of wraparound services to give basically their guests, as they call them, a new start, a fresh start, a new beginning. How inspiring is that? Had an opportunity to see them last week as they started their second bus. It was called Faith. The original one is Grace. Faith was inaugurated last week right in front of the City Hall, Fort Lauderdale. ShoweringLove.org. Go to their website, learn about their services, and if you feel so moved, help them to be a blessing to others. Listen, it's African American History Month, and as we started, we are going to highlight some of our local African Americans who have made accomplishments in the areas of politics, athletics, the business community, and entertainment. And tonight we're seeing a lady out of Duval County at the time, Mrs. Isidore Singleton. She is the wife of Isidore Singleton. She was Duval County's first African American city council person. Let's feature her right now.
Mary Littlejohn Singleton was born in Jacksonville, Florida on September 20th, 1926. As her parents encouraged education, she earned her degree at the historically black Florida A&M University. Upon graduation, she returned to Jacksonville to teach school. Mary Littlejohn married Isidore Singleton, who became a civil rights activist in Jacksonville in the post-war years. Her husband, Isidore Singleton, would later serve as president of the Jacksonville Negro Chamber of Commerce, as it was then named, and also served on the board of directors for Brewster Hospital. He also worked as area coordinator for the Federal Peace Corps agency, founded by President John F. Kennedy. Isidore died young in 1964. Singleton Park on Jacksonville's northwest side was renamed in his honor by the Jacksonville City Council. By then a widow, in 1967, Mary Singleton became more deeply involved in politics. Following passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, she was one of the first 2 black women to run for and be elected to the Jacksonville City Council. She won the Democratic nomination for the Ward 2 seat on the City Council in 1967, defeating William Thompson, a white man, with 20,648 to his 16,143 votes. Mary Singleton and the other black woman pioneer, Sally B. Mathis, were both elected to the City Council that year. Singleton was also elected to the first city council after the city of Jacksonville and Duval County consolidated, serving 2 terms from 1968 through 1972. In 1972, Singleton was elected to the Florida House of Representatives for District 16 after winning the Democratic nomination and facing no Republican opponent. She was the first black from North Florida to be elected to the Florida legislature since the Reconstruction era, the first woman from that region to serve, and the 3rd black to be elected to the Florida legislature in the 20th century. She was re-elected in 1974. In June 1976, Singleton was appointed as Director of the Division of Elections in the Office of the Secretary of State. She was the first black person and the 2nd woman to hold that position. Mary Singleton resigned as Elections Director to seek the Democratic nomination for Lieutenant Governor of Florida in the 1978 state elections. She was the running mate of Claude R. Kirk Jr., the colorful former Republican governor of Florida who attempted a comeback as a Democrat. She had to suspend campaigning in August 1978 to be with her 29-year-old daughter, Carol Scott, in New Orleans, who was undergoing surgery. Gone too soon, Mary Singleton died on December 7, 1980, at age 54 at her Tallahassee home. At the time of her death, she was serving as Director of Administration for the Banking and Finance Division of the State Comptroller's Office. Posthumously, after her death, she received the following recognitions. Governor Bob Martinez declared December 7, 1990 as Mary Singleton Day in remembrance of her efforts towards peace and brotherhood. The Jacksonville City Council recognized January 30th, 1992 as Mary Singleton Day. The City Council also established the annual Mary L. Singleton Memorial Award for Justice, Peace, and Social Harmony, which is given by the outgoing council president to the most outstanding committee chair. A Jacksonville Senior Center at 150 East 1st Street was named in her honor. For her vast educational and political contributions to the city of Jacksonville and the state of Florida, tonight's spotlight shines on Mary L. Singleton.
Blessed to know Mrs. Singleton, Miss Mary Singleton, and Mr. Isidore Singleton. Blessed to play a little golf with their son growing up. And we were so proud. I can remember those days in the 60s when she and Mrs. Sally Mathis ran and became black councilwomen in the city of Jacksonville. So excited and so grateful for our dear cousin who's often a co-host on our show for the outstanding narrating of those words pertaining to Mrs. Singleton. Bill, gonna let you go in the next 15 minutes, man. Just got to ask you this question: how do you manage your micro business when you're being paid net 30 and net 55, even net 90? How do you manage a business like that?
Well, you can't. I mean, what you got to do if you have your net 30, net 60, net 90 days, that's where the cash line and the cash flow come together. So, because if you don't have enough money to operate waiting on somebody to pay you, then you'll run out of money. What we have done, I've advocated over the years for particularly those type contracts, net 30, net 60, net 90. Florida now has a prompt payment statute where if you do work with the government, you can file for a prompt payment where you make arrangement during your negotiating of the contract on when you're going to get paid. But what most people fail to do when they have these agreements for net 30, net 90, or net 60, whatever the net is, that's the date that you're supposed to receive payment. But what if they cut the check on net 30? So you actually got net 35 because you got to take time for the post office. So when you do these agreements, you need to make sure that you have, net 10, net 15, so give you a chance to keep cash flow. And make sure that the money must be received by you at that time, not that that's the date of the check.
Oh, awesome. That's a good word. I'm telling you all, you need to share this out. This is a clinic. When you see this, the broadcast on demand of this, share this with young people. You share this with young business students. And this message that he's saying has no color to it. It's just some basic business principles that will help you in establishing your businesses and getting off the ground and making the most of it. But I want to ask you this. How about business turnovers? I know so often the quote unquote big boys, the big girls do it. They sell businesses, they start over, they take a break, and then let their money work for them in other directions. What kind of advice could you have for the dialogue with those audience tonight? As far as I've done it. I mean, I built the first business and sold it, and I had a non-compete clause where I couldn't open a pharmacy in the entire state of Florida. Right? When they wrote that check and paid me, they were not going to let me go open up a pharmacy next door. So there was a non-compete clause in the buy-sell agreement. But what I did do to circumvent that is I started doing pharmacy consulting outside the state of Florida, and that's how I expanded my brand to other states. I started offering what I learned in Florida
in different states, because remember, pharmacy license and are state license, so each state is different. But the operation of the pharmacy is the same. It's point of sale transactions. You got to fill prescriptions, and the key to the pharmacy business is not the original prescription; it's the refills. Because when you get the prescription today, you go to your doctor, they write the prescription. They're going to say, patient Varner, you have 30 pills now, and you got 4 refills. Well, that pharmacy takes that prescription. When they put the 4 refill in, you just created 4 months of revenue for them, because you're going to get your prescription each month. So you learn the nuances of your industry. So that's what I mean. Business is what it is, right? You got to be able to learn your industry greater than your competitor, and you got to beat them on service. You got to beat them on quality. One thing I've never done, I've never lost a client on price. I can stand by my price because I'm as good as the guy next door or better than the guy down the street. So I'm not going to compromise my price, because that's what it costs me to operate in order to give you the quality of service and the quality of product. But what I will do is I can give you some terms where, you know what, I'm gonna give you an invoice on the 5th. Instead of paying me on the 10th, you pay me on the 12th. But you got to pay my price. And if you're late on the 12th, there's going to be a penalty. Those are things you learn over time. And I've now I negotiate everything that I do. I mean, I negotiate at McDonald's. So, you know, it just become part of you at some point in time when you realize that what you offered has value, and you want to be able to get the best price for it, and you want to get paid. So I would advise everybody, you know, it's called value engineering, where you challenge the price for what you are going to be paying for a service. So you got to understand what your value and engineer a way to get it.
I promise you that I promise you when we sign off tonight, I'm immediately going and sharing this out again and saying you won't get this anywhere else. You're getting it free tonight on the dialogue because of the good heart of Brother Bill McCormick. He's helping us. There was a question, do you have to, because you consult pharmacies, do you have to have a pharmacy, a pharmacist in your, you have to employ pharmacists that help you in order to consult these other pharmacies?
No, not at all. What the law says is if I dispense medication, I need to be a licensed pharmacist. Well, when I started originally, when I went to my friend to say, I got an idea, I want to open a HIV/AIDS pharmacy. The first thing they said to me, but you're not a pharmacist. And I said, yeah, you're right. The guy who owned Walgreens is not a pharmacist either. He hired a pharmacist. I need you to invest in this, and we're going to hire a pharmacist to get this done. But operationally, on how to run a pharmacy, I don't even need a manual. I can tell you from start to finish everything you need to do to set up a pharmacy, and how do you make it successful. I do, even today. I still have my very first client in the pharmacy consulting service was out of Bertie County, North Carolina. Bertie County Rural Health Association is my client, and they just opened a on-site pharmacy where before they were consulting with a pharmacy that was off-site. And I've showed them how to bring that business into their own line of revenue. And I can tell you, if you talk to the CEO, Ms. Siobhan Depew, she would tell you it was probably one of the greatest moves they've ever made at their clinic.
Bill, one of the trends we're seeing is that pharmacies are popping up. Well, I mean, it's not a trend anymore. It's not only the down on the corner, the local, the CVS's, the Walgreens and such, but you're seeing grocery stores are making their pharmacies is an essential part, is an essential department in their store, is a produce department. I just want to ask you about some of the marketing that takes place in these grocery stores. Do they, and maybe this is a question of the industry that you're not going to be able to divulge in this forum, but do they affix or do they arrange refills outside of what doctors have prescribed in other words, is the frequency more often than what the doctor says it's a 90-day refill? They make it a 30-day so they can get you back in the store. Is that a ethical marketing tool, or is that just a perception of some of our kids?
No, I mean, what they can do is sell you more pills so you don't have to come back for a period of time, but that doesn't change the fact that the money is still there. So for instance, if you got a generic medication and they can tell you, let's say your prescription, there's an option, brand or generic, but they can tell you, you can come 30 days, get one brand for 30 days, but now they can give you 90-day supply of your generic brand. So that means you don't have to come back for 3 months, but when your 3 months runs out, you're going to go back to them again. So they only allow to fulfill the prescription based on they call it the SIG, S-I-G, that the doctor write on the prescriptions to make sure that you don't take more than what you're supposed to take and you're taking the right medication. So basically what he's doing is you're still going to take one pill a day. You're just going to take it for 90 days versus 30 days. So that business is definitely based on interaction. The number of encounters they meet on a daily basis is what make that pharmacy successful. That's why, if you notice, Walgreens and CVS is on every major intersectional corner, because they're taking the position that if 15,000 cars pass this intersection every hour, that 400 of them are going to stop. And the 400 who stop is going to come in the store, buy sundries, and get other things, including prescriptions. And that's the marketing equation. They use it. They got it down to a science. And that's the way they make money, by having people actually go in those doors.
Bill, what has it been like, particularly as an African American consulting businesses in some of our states that are not so friendly to or counties or places that are not so friendly to African American and African American people in authority? Are they able to look beyond the obvious and just say, "Hey, listen, this brother has a commodity or has a philosophy that he can help me to make money"? How does that balance out normally?
Well, it's funny. That's a great question, because you know what? I get more business out of my local environment from people who don't look like me than I do in my environment with people who do look like me. 98% of my customers today, 98% don't look like me. They want to know that Bill McCormick is going to deliver, because they want that green. What they see is green. They don't see black. They don't see brown. They don't see yellow. They don't see white. They see green. And if you're going to help them pile up that green, they're going to pay you to make sure that you help them do that. And that's been my experience. I mean, I actually went to a city, Yanceyville, North Carolina. I wasn't even allowed to stay in the town. And I went to the meeting. I was referred by a federal referral to go help this facility. And they saw the last name McCormick. So they had every indication that the person coming there was probably going to be white Irish. Well, I was the darkest thing in that room and the darkest thing in that town. But I can tell you, when I left out of there, they were smiling, shaking my hand, hugging my neck, and saying thank you, because now we're on the right road. So it doesn't, in my opinion, if you deliver what you say you're going to deliver, and you have the acumen and the presentation to get them where they're trying to go, then they don't look at color, except green. So
Bill, I know these questions are kind of all over the place. That's a great response, and I think that's to serve as an encouragement to anybody who, if you put forth the product, that's what people want. They want quality.
They want the best. They want the best. If you the best, that's what they want. They'll pay for it.
That's right.
People will pay for the best.
So now, as we said from the introduction, we're going to get you out of here in a couple more questions, Bill. He is a trustee. You're the chairman of trustees down in Florida.
I'm the chairman, yes, sir.
University. Yes, sir. And he came back. We did a show on black colleges and universities, HBCUs, a few months ago. Bill gave a lot of insight. Go back and look at that show. So this question is somewhat obvious, but the mixture, the passion that you have for educating our young people and the passion that you have in the business, What is your training? What is your training like for your employees, or yeah, just to stick with your employees? I know it goes beyond. Okay, this is how I make money. I need you to know how to do this. That we make this money. Just kind of tell us how you put your feelings and your all into it to get them to be the best person that they can be their own entrepreneur at some point.
Well, I mean, when I let me go back. When I sold the pharmacy to Eckert's, which is now CVS, part of that deal was that every employee would get an annual salary as a bonus, and I made them pay it. I didn't pay it; they paid it, and that was because I knew that my pharmacist had an aspiration to own his own pharmacy, and today he's still in business in Delray Beach, Linton Square Pharmacy, Dr. William Barnhart. Great pharmacist, one of the greatest pharmacists I've ever met. But that's a prime example. But what I do, my philosophy is a little different than most people. But my philosophy is when I hire you, the first thing I do is I make you your own supervisor. So you're not gonna have a supervisor. You're your own supervisor, and I'm expecting you when you come in the interview, and I found that you have the general criteria I need for you to be part of the chemistry of the office. So you got to fit a certain, almost like a puzzle piece. And then you got to have a work ethic that I just have a discerning spirit to know people who want to work. And so you're accountable for your own work, because when I hire you, you told me this is what you want to get paid for doing the work. So I'm going to pay you. So I expect the work. Now, if you can't get it done, I'm going to know sooner or later, because when they're sleeping, I'm up. And I'm reviewing. I built my own technology so I can gauge the transactions, my daily activity. I basically got a real live dashboard of operating my business from my iPad, from my phone, wherever I am, I can see what's going on. So, but there's an expectation. But also, the first thing I teach to all the employees is respect on the job. Them respecting themselves, respecting their coworkers, respecting their place of work. And if they do that, then we're not going to have a problem, number one. Number two, you're paid to do a job that you agreed on the amount that you wanted to get paid. Anything outside of that or above that, that's coming from the generosity of the owner. And I share with them when there is generosity. And the last thing, I ask them to learn their skill. Whatever they're doing on the job, there's so much available that they can go and be on top of what's going on in their space with their particular job. And that's what I teach. And they do it now on their own. Matter of fact, they bring me articles now where they've read about things in our space. So that means I know it's working. So I'm not going to have 24 employees and then 5 supervisors. No. If I hire you, Dr. Varner, you're your own supervisor. So if my client reaches out to me, I'm coming to you. This is what the client says. Update me on what's the status of this particular situation. And I'm going to know if you've done what you're supposed to do or if you didn't. And that's the part where I'll make them feel empowered. They're in control to get it right. They're in control to be excellent. They're in control to grow. And that's what I teach. And that's the spirit that everybody comes in. When I go to work they're supposed to come to work at 8:30. I got employees there at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Everybody has a key to go in. Everybody got a code to punch in that they at work. So we know who goes in the building. My alarm goes off on my phone whenever they hit the keypad to get to the. I put all that in place. I've learned over the years. Give them the freedom to do it. Then you have to be caring as a boss. When the pandemic hit, I had 7 of my employees who have small school-age kids. Well, they had no school was out, so I let them work from home. Well, 3 of them was embarrassed to come to tell me they didn't have internet. So what we have to do? We have to buy internet. They're gonna do the job. And the other 4 didn't have laptops, so we bought laptops. So all 7 employees got the tool to do their work, and their job was done. And they was able to watch their kids, because there's no way for them to be at work knowing their kids were at home. They're not going to concentrate because they're going to be worried. So that's a decision you got to make to have respect for, you got to understand totality of circumstances so you can figure out how the best way to give them a working environment where they are respected. And you know what? I had a small child once when my wife work schedule would call for her to go to work at 6, and I had to get up and get little Brittany ready for school. I know how tough it is. So I got firsthand experience on getting a little kid up from school, get them up, got to get them bathed, got to get them to brush their teeth, got to get the hair combed. Even though I had crooked ponytails, but it was combed, right? You got to get breakfast and put them in the car seat. I've been down that road. I know I know how difficult. So imagine having to do it for 3 kids. So I'm soft in that, in a sense where I understand, but I can tell you my productivity didn't go down. My customers are still happy, and we did not shut down one day during the pandemic. All my employees, everybody's still going like we were sitting in the office. And the people, the ones who came to the office, was all aware. So what I would do for them is I would bring them lunch 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they had lunch served for the staff who came. So no one felt left out. We're all part of a family here, and we consider of each other. And that's what makes, I think, a working environment where people respect where they work, and they're going to give you 100% of who they are. And if they want to leave, I've never fired a person in 32 years. Imagine that. If they left on their own. Because at the end of the day, I've never stopped people from wanting to go and expire and then pursue whatever it is that they had in their hearts. Because I think that's what makes good businesses. Again, if you have rumble, you're going to crumble. I've always believed that. So we keep out the rumble, and that's why we're still around.
Bill, one more question before we get you out of here. I'm not just saying this, y'all. I am absolutely loving what I'm learning, what I'm hearing. This is a classroom tonight. It's a celebration, but it's a classroom. I want to ask you this final question. Our other guest, Coretta, as you know, had a stroke several years ago, and her hand was a golden hand in the job that she did, and that still proceeds on. I want to talk about contingencies. How do we prepare when we're doing it ourselves, when we're not working on anybody else's job, when it's our business? How do we prepare for such things as that? How do we for medical emergencies that alters the course of our life, our ability to work, and ultimately, how do we prepare to just sit down and say it's time to call it quits and kick back?
Well, first I wanted to share with Coretta, but I didn't get a chance before she left. I've watched her through her rehabilitation on social media. She's been a personal inspiration for me, and so I wanted her to know that. But in addition, we have people who are specialists in what they do. There was a gentleman by the name of Clint Ketish, Ketish. He was a representative with MetLife. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, what he taught me and what he did for me early on and putting money away in 401ks and SARSEPs, in life insurance with annuity values, he did it right. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years back, but I can tell you what he did to set the foundation for my future, particularly for residual revenue and residual income. He was fantastic. He was an African American. If you saw him, you thought he was just some normal guy, but he was a top seller at MetLife. And he took me by my hand and said, "You're making a lot of money, but you need to do these things. And if you do these things, when I am dead and gone," as he prophetically acclaimed, "that I will still be okay." He was right. So I would advise that you get a financial advisor to help you set up retirement plans that will have annuity value for you, will have 401k, SARSEP for businesses, things that you may spend the money now, but you'll get the benefit later. That's number one. Number two is don't spend more than you make. If you can manage that, you will be fine. But at the end of the day, there's an old cliche. I always tell my brother this. He's in Virginia. If it don't make money, it don't make sense. So if you're an entrepreneur, the objective is to make money so you can change lives, so you can empower people, so you can provide a service to those in need. That's what it's all about. And so I am thankful for that advice that I got from Mr. Clyde Ketish, that I'm still, even after this journey is done, I'm fine. And most times when financial advisors call me and then I tell them, show them everything I got in my portfolio, they can't tell me more than what I know. Then they can't represent me. If I want them to know more than what I already know. Otherwise, I'm okay, because I am okay. But you have to find those people to do that for you. And the last thing is, when is it time to, when you lose your passion, I think it's time to give anything. Anytime, well, you know what? We can just take a B.B. King song. When the thrill is gone, it's time to step away.
Wow.
So long as you got the thrill, I think you should keep going. But once it's fade, I think it's time that you can call it quits.
Bill, you've been awesome. You've been inspiring, encouraging. Just leave us with your own words, and just leave us with your own words.
Yeah, well, you know, I will say this to all listeners: whatever it is in your heart that you believe that you can do, what you have, that you think about every day and every night, go for it. You won't know unless you go for it. And if you go for it, it's okay. If it gets tough, it's okay if hard times come, because it will. But there's an old saying: you cannot quit, and you should not quit. Get up, brush yourself off, and you know what? So what if everybody don't believe what you see? But if you see it as clear as day, then that means it's yours. You not only claim it, you got to go grab it. And don't be afraid to fail, because in business, you know what? Failing is not like it's over. Failing means you got to try another way. And so just try another way. And at the end of the day, I can assure you, without any shadow of doubt, if you carry Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 with you, you got it made. Because if you trust him and lean on him, he will direct your path. And I tell you, when you think it's all over, that's when the scripture will guide you over. Because the one thing I have learned, the closer you to your dream, the busier the devil gets and the tougher it seems. That's when you shouldn't quit. So it's just around the corner. So you don't want to get down to the last line and walk away when the dream is within arm's reach. So I say you keep going. You step out on faith. You step out on your knowledge. And what you don't know, ask. There's a lot of information available now via social media. It's not much you have to create. Everything you do or want to do, somebody's doing it somewhere in this country or around the world. Somebody's doing it. The question is, what are you going to do with your own flavor, with your own clients, in your own environment? And at the end of the day, that's what an entrepreneur does. They find a way to make it happen.
Well, Bill, Brother William McCormick, thank you so much for coming by the dialogue tonight. You are indeed, we celebrate you as a great African-American entrepreneur who has that passion to keep it going down, not only your family bloodline, but the bloodline of the community of people who are about being somebody and doing something and being an entrepreneur. Thank you for your sharing spirit. Thank you for coming on the dialogue tonight. God bless you and enjoy this month, sir. You deserve it.
Likewise. At any time, just you know how to reach me. Have a great evening and happy Black History Month.
Thank you, Colin. I understand you got a mean drive, too.
Yeah, everything's good. We'll get out to play, I promise.
Bless you, Bill. Love you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
All righty.
All right. So this is how I see it. The dialogue's about to leave you for the night. This is how I see it. The word that I heard was passion. Whatever God has already put in you, take that with all of your training, all of your preparation, and all of your learning, and all of your mentorship, all of the understanding that you get, all of your research, and fuel that fire into making it work for you. Bill told us both sides of the story tonight. He told us what it was like coming up in South Georgia, coming up, as we would say theologically, on the rough side of the mountain. And he showed us how to prepare once you've been successful, how to enjoy your success on the back end of it. But in the middle, the thing that stuck out the most was that he had a plan to help be a blessing to others and lift others up along the way and teach them the trades and the skills, the knowledge that has made him the success story that he is. Tonight, Bill McCormick and all of our African-American and Ms. Coretta Smith Morgan and all of our Black entrepreneurs and all entrepreneurs, we celebrate you tonight from the dialogue, sincerely. Listen, Dialogue with Dozy continues on next Monday night, 8 o'clock next Monday night. I will have 10,000 meetings leading up to it. Next Monday night, 8 o'clock Dialogue with Dozer, which is brought to you by moregogiggacreations.com, moregogiggacreations.com. Call Markia Johnson, Latoya Johnson and their team, and Latoya Glenn and their team. I shouldn't do this sleepy. And bring them on. Let them serve you. Let them make your product look good, your brand look good, your name look good, your business look good, and make you the success that we just saw in Bill McCormick and Coretta Morgan tonight. Listen, next week's dialogue, we're going to look at Blacks in education. We're going to look at a young man who trains, who's a business teacher, who trains our young men and women to go out and incorporate the learning and the trade and the skill to make money even now while they're in school. We're going to bring in a young man who also works with one of the airlines, who does a mentoring piece that allows students to get college credits while they're even in college, and teaches them about the piloting of airplanes and all that entails. And we're going to bring some educators on, and we're going to bring some young people who were trained by HBCUs. Next week's Dialogue with Dozie. Thank you for being with us. We love you. Share this out. Tell somebody about it. And listen, we'll pray KV back with us on next Monday night. We love you. This is The Dialogue. We're out.